Let me share my screen. The first thing we're going to start with is the market availability for Sunnova. So Sunnova is our newest TPO partner. And if you're working in one of these states where you've never had a TPO before, that stands for third party ownership. So markets open as of 5/28 when we launched our California, Virginia, Colorado, Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, Florida, Ohio, New Mexico, Oregon, South Carolina, Idaho, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Utah. Many of those states, we've seen a massive influx of TPO submissions because those states have never had a TPO product before. So we've seen a bunch in South Carolina, a lot of them in Georgia, and a huge chunk in Arkansas and some in Oklahoma as well. So very excited about the increased volume in those places. So if this may be somewhat repetitive if you've worked with these before, but for those of you who have not had a TPO option, what is a TPO system? Like we just said, there's plenty of markets where we haven't had those before. It stands for third party owned, meaning Sunnova is the owner of that system and they claim all of the tax benefits for it. With Sunnova, there are utility escalators similar to an Everbright, a Sunrun, an Enfin, and typically, just for best practice, the higher the escalator, the higher the EPC, which is what typically your commissions are based on. So, with Sunnova owning the system, the EPC is always based on the sun hours that roof gets. So clearly, unobstructed roofs with homes that get more sun exposure are going to have a higher EPC than some neighborhoods with a lot of tree structure and no south-facing roofs. The system is covered by Sunnova, meaning they handle the maintenance, repairs, and are responsible for that system operationally. And there are different products offered state by state, meaning some states may have the PPA option. Other states like Florida, where I am located, we only have the lease option. And we'll go over the different products that they have available and what kind of properties you can use and what kind of property owners. All right, so let's break down the different options. What is a power purchase agreement? With Sunnova, that means the homeowner is only paying for the power the system produces. It's a flexible month by month kind of thing. They lock in a low kilowatt hour rate for 25 years. Again, that system is owned by Sunnova. The difference between the PPA regular and a PPA easy is that a PPA easy, it's a fixed monthly payment. They pay a guaranteed amount each month for the payment. So if you're choosing between the two PPA options, one is flexible payments, the other is fixed payments. And then, of course, there's the equipment leases in places like Florida, where it offers competitive pricing without the hassle of doing the incentives, especially in the retirement place that I live in Florida. We have a lot of folks that can't benefit from the tax credits. The joke when I was growing up, and I apologize, is that I grew up in God's waiting room. This is where people would retire and they didn't have any taxable income, so they would not benefit from the tax benefits of the solar tax incentives. Now with Sunnova, the only product where you can attach batteries is the lease. So if the homeowner intends to use batteries for their project, it must be an equipment lease. Can't do it with the PPAs. So what are the credit requirements for Sunnova? They require a 650 or above FICO and no bankruptcies for the last 7 years or no derogatory accounts or trade lines in recent credit history. One of the positives is they do not do income verification or debt to income when making their credit decisions. Their credit decision is a cascading waterfall that I believe starts at Experian and works its way down. Meaning if it runs through Experian and it's not 650, it will then go down to Equifax and then TransUnion. And if one of those three hits a 650 or above, that's when the approval would come through. Property owners are individuals, trusts, LLCs, S-corps, general and limited partnerships, and life estates. But what's not allowed is government-owned properties, co-ops, nonprofits, or incorporated holding companies. You can install Sunnova on single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes, and townhomes, but not on commercial or non-residential properties or investment properties or multifamily housing. If it is a manufactured mobile, it has to be on permanent foundation. So let's talk about Catalyst, because I assume many of you have probably received your logins for Sunnova up to this point. In order to get into your logins, it takes you to the legacy portal in Sunnova, but that's not where you go to design your system. The legacy portal is where they take you, but everyone needs to go to Sunnova Catalyst. In Sunnova Catalyst, that's where you'll create your lead, design your system, and generate your project and get signatures from the homeowner. Very important step that I want everyone on this call to pay attention to. Your Sunnova project is not submitted and complete until the homeowner has logged into the My Sunnova app and set up their ACH auto pay. If they don't sign up for auto pay, no TPO, no auto pay. It has to be done. The good news is in the My Sunnova app, you can also complete the contract validation in the My Sunnova app, which is also their welcome call. So you don't have to do the welcome call if you complete contract validation within the My Sunnova app. So get into the habit, best practice, of killing those two birds with one stone. Get your homeowner logged into My Sunnova, complete the online contract validation, and have them sign up for the ACH auto pay. We have about 400 closed projects in Sunnova in the 2 weeks since we've opened. 100 of those did not complete that step. So realistically, we only have 300 because we need that step complete in order for Sunnova to move that part forward. Any questions? All right, well, then you probably want to see how to actually design the system. So again, the website that everyone should bookmark when they're doing Sunnova projects, even if you don't have your logins yet, you can still go to quoting.sunnova.com. This is where you will create your leads. This is where you will generate your proposals. You will do pricing from this location, and you will close the contracts. So the portal that you get your login from is not the portal where you build your projects. 100% has to be done from quoting.sunnova.com in their portal called Catalyst. So let me stop my screen share now and jump over and we'll do a quick live demo. All right, I'm logged into Sunnova Catalyst. I'm at my Leads page. This is the default landing page when you're logged into quoting.sunnova.com. And if I want to create a new lead, I can press the new lead button on the upper right-hand side. If you were ever looking to find out where I live, you just found out. I live in this neighborhood in Florida. And I'm going to jump on one of my neighbor's properties. We're going to run a project for them. Right, so I can either enter the address manually up here or drag the pin to the appropriate location and click Create Solar Lead. Now, it's going to do an address verification, and if you get that checkbox, it means the property is likely to be approved and moved forward without any additional information, right? If you don't have that checkbox and there's that little yellow cone there instead, all that's saying is we can still do this project, but you may have to provide and upload some proof of ownership. But that's not the case for this one, so we'll click Save and Continue. Now, first thing it's going to do is run a title check and make sure that you have the spelling for the homeowner's name correctly. Because we're doing a test project, I'm going to do Add New Contact and change that, right? And I'll put in their additional contact details. No different than if I was running a lead for another platform. And a mobile phone number. And then we can set the preferred language. So English or Spanish. If the homeowner is Spanish, you can get the contracts and all the proposal information in Spanish as well. You just choose the appropriate language here. Click Save and Continue, and that's going to create the lead. All right, so now we need to enter in the homeowner's utility information. I am in a Florida Power and Light zone, and I'm on the residential rate plan.
Charles says.
Someone have a question? Or are they just unmuted? Gotcha, okay. So I'm going to choose the residential rate plan. And then the best practice here for your utility is to always click the largest estimated annual utility increase and keep your residential rate plan the same as your post-solar rate plan, unless there's another option that specifically says solar. So then I can enter their annual usage here if I have it, or their month-to-month usage by adding additional months. So let's say for this homeowner, they are using about 14,897. Nope, that's way too much. That's a huge system. 14,897 kilowatt hours for a 12-month period. And I'll click Save and Continue. This is going to auto-generate their design. Now, if you've been in the Freedom Forever portal before, you are fully aware of how Aurora works. And Aurora is also what Sunnova is going to use for their design, but they have their own proprietary build inside because they have different calculations. Because Sunnova owns the system, they have to detect and really hone in on the roof planes that produce the most, right? So this is going to load a system design and immediately give us the most max fit possible, right? Now, the last time I did one of these houses, they tried to fit like 184% offset on the roof. So I'm assuming, because we have a really great set, yeah, it's going to be like a large system, right? So you see the irradiance maps running, no different if you were in Aurora in Freedom's instance. And we're just waiting for this irradiance map to come back so we can see what our system size is and the calculation of production. So I'm just going to wait for that. While I'm waiting for that, does anyone have any questions they want to throw at me? All right. So this put a 73 panel max fit. I can either go through the process of like turning off and on the panels that I do or don't want, or I can go to this bottom right-hand side and click switch to target offset and say, we were trying to get to just 100% offset for that homeowner. So when I do that, it's going to pick out the panels, the least amount of panels to get the maximum production to get me to as close to 100% as possible. While we're here, you can see to configure your system and change out the equipment, you would do that in the configure system button. If you want to see that step again, on the right-hand side where it says switch to max fit, that would change it back to maximizing the panels. Before this button right here where I'm highlighting, it said, set target offset. And I typed in 100% right there. Great question. Okay, so that dropped it down to 23 panels, 9.43 kilowatt system. I do have my correct panels. Remember, always refer to the adder sheet to make sure that you have the correct panel for Sunnova projects. Right now, that is the Q-Cell 410. If I wanted to configure the system and add batteries, I can click the configure system button right here and change out the panel, the inverter, or add batteries to that system. For this demonstration purpose, we're not going to do that. We're going to leave this system as is, and I'm going to say save and continue to pricing. When you get to the pricing screen, you'll have the option to manually enter pricing. From the folks at Sunnova, they've said the best practice here is to choose for your solar rate Once it loads, I'm going to choose that 25-year lease. Again, I'm in the state of Florida, so that's the only product that I have available to me. If you were in another state, like, that offered PPAs, you would have multiple options here, like the PPA Easy or the PPA Regular. For pricing method, I'm going to choose solar rate. And let's say for this customer, I was going to choose 14 cents a kilowatt hour to charge. There is no down payment. Now we've come to the escalator. So if you've done an EPC, a TPO before, the EPCs are determined by how much sun the roof gets and what escalator you choose. So the higher the EPC, higher the escalator. So if I were maxing out the escalator for the state, I would choose 2.9, and you always put in 0 for the rebate. Now that I have all that information in, I can click calculate pricing. This is going to try to validate the system to see if I am actually giving the customer savings. And if I am, it's going to calculate the EPC. Okay, so super important step. Here is what the system will cost for that homeowner a month. This is the cost of that system, which is what you would transfer over to Freedom. And then here is my EPC. Now, you may all know this, but I'm just going to do a super quick math lesson with all of you, just to let you know how to convert that EPC into a net PPW, right? So let me stop my share real quick. And this is always the most, some of you may already know this, some of you may not, but I will take the 5 minutes to explain it. So let's talk about how to convert an EPC to a net PPW, because you got to remember, with a TPO product, there is no way to build in the cost of adders. That EPC is the number that you're working from. So that EPC was 3.63, and I'm going to multiply that by the size of the system in watts. So if it was a 9.43 kilowatt system, that's 9,430 watts. I dropped the decimal place and added a 0. Okay? So when I run that, 9.49430 times 3.63, we get that number, 34230.9. Now let's say there was the homeowner has a Tesla car and they want an EV charger. All right, so we're going to put an EV charger adder there. They want to go with the upgraded Google Safe Streets package, which is $600 for Solar Pros for PTO pay, right? And let's say they were, and that was it, right? So they want the Safe Streets and they want a EV charger. I need to subtract those adders from the cost of the system. So I'm going to subtract 1,500 and 600, and that gives me a net system price of 32130.9. So the gross system price was the EPC times the system size. This is the price of it after adders. If I now divide that by the system size, the net PPW for that project is 3.407. So that is the number you would put into the Pros app to calculate your commission. You can only go based on the EPC. There's no way to build adders into the project. So that's how you do the math to figure out what your net PPW is for that project. Any questions on that?
I have a question, but I dropped it in the chat, so I don't know if it's appropriate to ask here. If you want to answer it in the chat.
Is there a different adder sheet for Sunnova? Is that you?
Yes.
No, the adder sheet is the adder sheet. It's the same one that's in the Sales Resource Center. So you can use that as your kind of like your guidepost for what adders could be calculated and what you would subtract from that total dealer amount, right? So I guess in Sunnova, you don't have to do that math. They give you the total dealer amount. You can subtract the adders from this and then divide by the system size to get your net PPW.
It's important. Thank you.
Got it.
And what happens if you add a battery?
If you add a battery, then those battery costs are built into the cost of the system. Now, that's a great question. Thank you, Michael. So when you add a battery to the system, you would then type in the battery cost from Freedom's adder sheet. And this is a very key thing to remember with Sunnova that should help you sell batteries. your escalator only applies to the PV system. Your battery cost does not escalate over the course of the contract. And the battery is included in the warranty for the 25 years. So I know Tesla warranties their batteries, I believe, between 10 and 12 years, but Sunnova warranties it for the full life of the system.
Also, if there's another battery on the Sunnova approved vendor list that are not listed by Freedom, will we be able to offer those batteries as well?
Anytime there's a battery situation, always refer to the adder sheet, match it up with the Sunnova line to see which batteries are available for us.
But if there is a battery that's not on our sheet that is listed on the approved sheet for Sunnova, can we utilize that as well? Or
no, sir.
No, they have to be Freedom Forever approved.
Yeah, just Freedom side. So always refer to the adder sheet to see what's available per finance product. All right, so homeowner satisfied, they're ready to move forward. I click add pricing to proposal, and it's going to save that pricing model. How do we adjust fire code setbacks? If there is an incorrect fire code setback, you would do it the same as if you were in Aurora in our platform. You would go to the design screen and request a manual design and tell them the issue, and then they would redesign it inside of their tenant. All right, so we've got our proposal here. And now we can actually show the proposal to the customer. So when you click on the next tab, you can click the share button to send that to the email address on file. And then go over the system here, and you can view the solar design. This is where it kind of reiterates the My Sunnova customer portal and mobile app. So remember to get this set up for them, get them signed up for ACH and do their contract validation so that those projects move through the pipeline properly. Easy for me to say. So then here is the details on their equipment lease. If you want to download a draft of the contract, you can by clicking download draft contract. And then to run that homeowner's credit, you click see if I qualify. And you would run that credit app no different than if you were in Freedom's portal by choosing the person on title, filling out the information, and running the credit application. As soon as they're approved, this button for see if I qualify will convert to move it forward and send the contract. You will then send the contract to the homeowner. Now I'm going to leave this information up here on screen so that we know how to transfer it over to Freedom Forever's portal. So let's say we're all good to go. The homeowner signed. You've completed the My Sunnova information. Now it's time to generate this contract in Freedom Forever's portal, which we would do manually. So I'm going to go back over to Freedom's portal and click Generate Project. When you click Generate Project from the left-hand side, it's going to bring up the primary questions. Sunnova is our finance partner. And then we will put the address in, 12686. Make sure the pin's on the correct location and move to the next step. Choose the utility company and continue. And then we do have the title check built into the project generator now, so it's spelled correctly. I'm going to keep this because it's a test contract here and match the homeowner information. And the primary language, preferred method of contact, and move to the next screen. If the utility bill holder is the person on contract, choose them. If it's someone else in the home, put their name, their phone number, and email address so that the interconnection documents get sent to the correct person. HOA information, yes, no, or not sure. Any locked gate information, choose that and move to the next step. If you had offered the homeowner one of the Google Essentials packages, like Basics, Essentials, or Premium, you would choose that here. And then we are going to put in our panel count. I believe that was 22. It was 23 panels, and that's the correct system size, 9.43. I'm going to go back to the quote and get the annual production, which was 14,730. And move on to the next screen. We're doing a roof mounted system, and we did not add a battery, but if you did, here's where you would select the different circuits and things that you're going to back up with that project. Now, if they were doing end-phase inverters or did do that EV charger, you would check the boxes here for those upgrades. And then the system price these numbers will match. So I'll go back to the contract itself and go to the quote. Because I forgot to grab this number. Click view pricing, and we're going to copy this number here directly into the contract price and primary payment amount. All right, if there was a setter for this appointment, you could choose them from your setter list. This is a self-generated deal, and I'm going to maximize that system production. If there was a layout you wanted to attach, you could drag that here, and then we'll click Let's Go, and this will generate any documents that need to be signed remaining by the customer. In this situation, it's an opt-in to receive phone calls, upload the utility bill, proof of ownership if necessary, and any other files. You would do that there. Create project and send docs. And now you've sent that project to Lightspeed. The homeowner will receive an email to sign those DocuSign documents, and then you can submit that project for site survey. And that's the Sunnova process. And we're right at about 34 minutes, so we'll be able to jump right into Enfin here. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. My apologies if I missed if this was already asked or answered already. But I'm looking at the adder sheet that's effective maybe 2-3 weeks ago, so it's not an old one. And I'm trying to find a base module for Sunnova in Texas. I don't see that on here. Is this something that I'm missing, or is it not approved in Texas yet?
It's not approved in Texas yet. That's not one of our open markets.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I have a question really quick. I know we're just moving into Enfin, but as far as Enfin, if we're choosing Q-cell panels, is that an extra adder, or is that free when we're going with the route with Enfin?
When you go with Enfin, there is no panel adder because Enfin owns Q-cell and vice versa. They're the same company.
Awesome. Just wanted to double check. Thank you for that.
No worries.
One more thing. If we're adding batteries, right, if we go on to the second battery, are we choosing existing inverter, or are we doing add another inverter when we're adding batteries?
In Sunnova or Enfin?
I would say in general, but let's just say in Enfin.
In Enfin, depending on the battery, you would choose the inverter from the design page. In Sunnova, I would leave the inverters as is, and because they'll, like the way that Sunnova calculates their production, they would change the inverters after the contract was signed to add the appropriate ones.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Bear with me one moment. All right, y'all can still see my screen. We're going to go to the lead screen. Now, to do an Enfin project, we're going to do that from the Aurora tenant inside of Lightspeed. So I'm going to my leads dashboard, and I'm going to choose a lead I've already created. I'm going to do a new Aurora proposal to design. Again, pin location is important. Drop the pin on the correct location, and we'll confirm that one. That's going to open up Aurora for us. All right, so we are in Aurora. We're going to go down to our utility information. You can see that I've chosen TECO as my energy provider, and I've done the math on that bill, and it actually looks like we're closer to 16 cents a kilowatt. So I've chosen that rate. Again, putting in the bill information is important. Anything with the candy stripe is what Genability is used. The solid bricks are ones that we've entered. So I'll scroll down. We have our monthly utility bill, and I'm going to jump down straight to the design. Edit solar design. Now, some best practices with Enfin. For the sake of this training, I'm going to run the AI roof generator. But with Enfin, they want you to run the expert design for each one. So if you're gonna do an Enfin project, get in the habit of, if you have the lead in advance, of clicking expert design and getting that expert design run so that you don't have any hiccups later down the road. Also, in Enfin, if you are choosing a separate inverter, meaning you're not going to use Solar Edge, you have to choose that inverter now from the design page. The Tesla inverter is there if you're choosing the Powerwall 3. If you're choosing the Enphase inverter, you choose it from that inverter page. Now I'm going to choose the Q-cell panel because the Q-cell panels are required for those Enfin projects. I'll choose an auto orientation and we'll click place. Got the view from John Michael's trunk. All right, and now, okay, I've got my max fit, and it's estimated that I'm going to be at 101% offset. Let me go ahead and finalize that and make sure that we're all set there. Oop, we got some feedback. All right, so we're waiting for our model simulations to run here.
While we're waiting on that, I just wanted to let everyone know for Enfin, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Yep.
It's going to be very competitive on the lower side of deals for Florida. And for California, it's incredibly competitive across the board. We're seeing similar numbers to LightReach, but we're actually getting funding, which is positive. And if you go up to NorCal specifically, Enfin blows everything out of the water in terms of EPC price.
Yeah, and I would have demonstrated one of those for you, but my test sales rep account does not have an HIS, and the portal is like HIS. If you don't got it, you don't move forward. So we're doing these Florida ones right now. Enphin's only open in Florida and California. So we'll demo this from a Florida perspective, but if you wanted to run some tests just to confirm what Brett is saying, and he's correct on that, if you have your HIS and you're able to run Cali projects, you will be pleasantly surprised. All right, you know what? Let me stop my share. There's a couple things I do want to go over with you real quick that we need to talk about with Enfin before we just jump into finishing the design. So we did this for the Sunnova portion. The credit requirements for Enfin is a minimum FICO score of 600. It has to have a 1-year savings requirement. They do a title check. It is a soft credit pull at submission. Let me just share the. So it's a soft credit check at submission, but at the second milestone, that does convert into a hard pull. And these initial credit approvals are not correct, so we'll move on. Some key underwriting issues. It is for primary residence only. If it's a multi-unit, applicant must either own the roof or have HOA approval. And again, the residence must be permanently affixed to the ground. System size is between 3.5 and 30 kilowatts. And the electrical offset must adhere to local utility requirements. Now, again, we talked about this earlier. They do want those expert designs. We are using the Q-cell panel. And if you're used to using Aurora, if you're pricing out projects in Enfin, you do not use that net price per watt tool in the upper left-hand side. Very similar to Sunnova. It's the same as Sunnova, whereas they are setting the EPC for the project. So that's what you're basing your commission numbers on. So you can't set the price per watt in the upper left-hand side. Your EPC is demoed through the Enfin tool inside of Lightspeed. Okay. So we talked about solar math. We do the credit application in Aurora, like it's very similar to Mosaic. I cannot stress this one thing enough to save you time, energy, and having to get things signed multiple times. The spelling of the name, email address, and phone number have got to be correct when you're creating these leads. Do not apply for credit until you verify that all of those things are correct. Otherwise, you'll have to create another lead from scratch. That is a pain point for these Enfin projects. So accuracy and clarity is key. Double and triple check that that information is correct before you move forward. The other thing is that on occasion, they may need to verify that the proof of identity. This is an example of the email that is sent to the rep and the homeowner. You can still move the project forward after you provide the proof of identity, but they may have to upload direct driver's license, passport, etc., to move that project fully forward. All right, y'all still with me?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question about the credit stipulations and stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm in California. We've had 3 Enfin credit fails in the last week that were all approved with 650 plus scores through other providers. And I've been trying to get in touch with Enfin to see like what they're seeing, because it's supposed to be 600 or above. We've got guys that have 670 credit scores that are getting denials for TPOs then have been approved with other, like Everbright or Sunrun.
Sure.
And all we've gotten so far from Enfin is that they just run TransUnion. It doesn't waterfall, but that might be something that comes in the future. Have we heard any issues with above 600s failing through Enfin? Would there be a reason for that? Do we know anything about it?
That's the first time I've heard of the issue happening. If you wouldn't mind emailing me a couple of the names on those leads, I'll try to work it up my pipeline and see if I can get some answers there.
Yeah, if you could put your email in the chat. I don't know if it's in there already, but I'll take it and shoot it to you. That'd be great. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yep.
On the 1-year savings requirement, what exactly is that?
Anytime there's a third-party owned system, unless there's like a battery attached to it, you have to be improving that customer savings, right? Like they need the purpose of going with their product is to save them on their electricity bill. So if you can't provide that, it will just kick it back, right? So that prevents you from like manually entering some random KWH number. There has to be like legit savings for the homeowner.
Copy. I got confused. I thought something else. Okay.
No worries. So the question about sending the Enfin credit app to the homeowner, this is actually kind of a weird thing with Enfin. As soon as you hit that apply now button, it's going to open up the credit application inside of the browser, but also it immediately emails the homeowner. So they should receive an email at the moment. If not, have them check their spam or make sure it's not blocked. But clicking that apply now button, we actually get complaints that, hey, I did this inside of your app. Why am I also getting the email? So just make sure they're receiving the email, because as soon as you hit apply now, it triggers the email to the homeowner. All right. Let's price this project out. Now, listen, again, like in Sunnova, you have to anticipate the cost of adders. But the cool thing about Enfin being inside of Aurora is that I can click the adder buttons here. So if I was going to add that EV charger to the project, or if I was going to go with the Google Safe Streets option for PTO pay, I can check those boxes. Now, it's not building those costs into the project, but when I check the button at exit to CRM, it will show me my net PPW without me having to do any crazy math, right? So let's choose financing type, and we're going to choose Enfin as our finance product. That should load the specific products for your market. I'm in Florida. Again, I'm doing a smart energy lease. I'll try the energy lease at 3.5. When you choose that lease, this will bring up the EPCs and the costs. So we're just waiting for that pop-up window to show up, right? So again, EPCs are based on sun hours. The max I can charge here is 13 cents, and the EPC is 3.35. And there's the monthly payment. So if I was choosing that option, I would click Save. And then you will see the solar rate, the escalator, and the year one monthly payment. Now, this is a tip and trick I want to share with everyone. If you have your adders selected and you haven't demoed pricing for the homeowner yet, do yourself a favor and click the Exit to CRM button. This will scan your project and let you know of any adders you may have missed, but also adders that you maybe shouldn't have selected, right? So it's going to scan your project and show you with the EPC built in. All right, so I forgot my multiple planes adder. I'm going to click Continue to Proposal Details. Here is that EPC for my project. My end phase adder is included because I chose the end phase inverter on the design screen. I got my EV charger, my Google Essentials, and those multiple planes. So this will tell me what my actual net PPW is. If I'm good with that number, I can go back to Edit Proposal in Aurora and run that customer's credit. So you can use the Exit to CRM button. Although you're not converting the project yet, you can use that Exit to CRM button to check your net PPW with Enfin. So if I do want to apply for credit with that homeowner, I go to the financing screen, it's grabbed my quote, and I click Apply Now. Now let's test and see if I'm right here. If I click this Apply Now button, it's going to open up the credit application inside of the Aurora instance, but I should also immediately get an email from Enfin saying you have the financing, right? Let me check. Ugh. Bear with me. Signing into my email here real quick. Pete, you got your hand up? What you got?
Yes, thank you. Well, wait, maybe you're going to talk about this later, but when you were back on the adder sheet, can you talk about two things? Can you talk about if somebody's selecting the Q cells? There's one that had parentheses around the Q cell, one that doesn't. I believe there were 410s.
Yep.
And then also I had this problem the other day when I tried to pick the batteries for backup. It would only let me go to 14 cents. When I choose self-consumption, even though that's not what you want, it goes up to like 24 cents and allows you to go up more. I don't know if you're going to talk about that or not.
Yeah, so again, those are kind of possibly California specific things, right? In those situations, right, when you choose a battery, it should increase the potential EPC or the max you can charge to help offset the cost of those batteries. So you are on the right track. Just make sure that when you're on the storage page, so when you were in Aurora, let's go back to financing. So it's asking me for my HIS. So did you do the storage from here as well?
I believe so. To be honest, I was playing around with it newer, so I'm learning right here.
Yeah, when you do it here, it's almost backwards. I brought it up on the last call. If you do backup, the avoided cost of power is much lower than if you do self-consumption. It should be the other way around, but it's still showing incorrectly.
Okay. Shoot us an email offline. I'll send that to our dev team to make sure they can. That might be an Aurora issue.
Will do. Thank you.
And then there's the 14s right there.
Say again.
If you scroll down where the Q cells, there's one with the parentheses around it. What's that mean between the other one?
So this one is for Enfin projects. I just didn't check it because I did Enfin as my financer, but there are other markets where you can use Enfin panels, and there's an adder for it. So if you're not choosing Enfin and you're in a market where this is not the base model, that's when you would choose that one so that it doesn't come out of your commission.
Thank you.
All right. So then to complete the project, once you've passed credit, you would exit the CRM and convert this project into Lightspeed like normal. Any questions?
What is the warranties on the batteries look like for Enfin?
That's a good question. I'll find out for you. I know I got the specific answer for Sunnova, but I'll reach out to our Enfin rep and find out.
I do want clarification as far as the PPA. Which is the option that you can buy after 5 years? Is it the PPA or is it the lease?
With Sunnova, it's the lease. I'm sorry, the PPA. You can't buy out leases with Sunnova. You can, after 5 years, you can purchase the system after 5 years, but with the lease, Sunnova doesn't offer that option.
What about with Enfin?
Enfin, I believe it's after 5 years for both.
For
So
both?
let me double check.
Okay. Yeah, because I pitched one yesterday on that, and I had the same issue with the battery. So I would have to switch the battery on the proposal page to self-consumption, and then I would have to, but I'm encountering the price already inside the adders for the backup. So I would think I have the project priced correctly that way, but it wouldn't allow me on Enfin to choose a higher, more than 14 cents or so.
Okay, shoot me an email with that information, and we'll try to make sure that that's corrected inside of Aurora when you trigger the battery.
Yeah, will do. Although he might be more interested on the tax credit with the loan, but that one was still an option yesterday for him, and I was
Right.
hoping I was correct. But that was my first proposal that I presented with Enfin.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Does Sunnova do a hard credit check? And also, which markets is Sunnova available in?
You jump over here. Give me one sec. I'll get you the list. If you go into the Sales Resource Center, into Finance and Payment Options, and choose Sunnova, there's a whole list of market availability.
Got it. So I have two questions on the escalator. Now the escalator, to clarify, it's a 2.9 or whatever the rate is, right? 2.99, 3.5, 3.99, but is compounding, correct?
So it's, yeah, so for the first year, they'll have that fixed price for the first year, and then it will increase by 2.9%, and then 2.9% of that amount the next year. So, you know, if I had a $100 bill for even after the first year, it would be 102.90, and then it would go up 2.9% of that 102.90.
Let me go. I gotta take this other call.
Correct. So in
And
other
let
words,
me
it's
know if you need
compounding.
anything in the meantime.
And is
Right.
there a way that we have a sheet? Because I know in the other proposals,
Cool,
I think
cool.
with
All right, perfect. Thanks so much.
Everbright,
Talk to you soon.
we used to have the actual
Bye.
breakdown sheet of what it looks like in 5 years, 10 years. It gives you the whole breakdown all the way up to 25 years. Is there a way that we have a tool that we can show the customer, because they want to see what that payment is going to look like in 5, 10, 15, 25 years. And I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly.
Sunnova has that breakdown in their contract. Enfin, I don't believe so. I'm not sure if we have a tool calculator. So that might be a tech suggestion for the future.
Okay. Thank you, though.
Okay, y'all. I really appreciate you coming. We're about at time. So again, if you have any additional questions, you can shoot them over to me at marklennox@freedomforever.com, and we'll get your questions answered. I appreciate you being here. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Thank you so much for hopping on with us, Mark.